Hello, welcome to the channel and thanks for watching. This video will take you through the new Necromunda Book of the Outcast releases. I do have a bit of a cold. I've tried to edit out any gross sniffing noises and things. It may leave some weird sound jumps and things in the video, so I hope that doesn't spoil your enjoyment. I'll let you crack on. So today's going to be my first look, real first impressions on the three things. Most of the Book of the Outcast I'll do first. I'll come back to the cards of a quick look through later, and obviously I'll look at the new Hive market and do an unboxing. So let's get into the book. It's obviously the latest of the Book of series. Now I think the gang ones were obvious when they came out at the very beginning, and then we did Bounty Hunters and things. So this is a really exciting release, talking about the outcasts of various levels of Necromundan society, from the nobles we always have portrayed in the front to outcasts from the gangs, obviously what looks like one of the rogue doc characters. So again, this won't be a massive in-depth review of all the rules because again I've not read them. This is the first look through, and we start off with a very similar or the same. This is what Necromunda world looks like. A breakdown of the hive from the spire where the nobles are, Hive City, which is where the bulk of the gangs are, Underhive, which is where we find ourselves when we play this game, at the bottom the sump, etc. And then a different blurb linking into what we're going to look through today. So, designer's notes using the Book of the Outcast. Skirmish game, we know this. Outcasts had even more arbiters who can use this book to flesh out the campaigns with new and interesting enemies for their players, or players might like to take on the challenge of running a scum gang. Excellent, that's what we want to see. Lovely artwork. Lady Credo, so this model is available from Forge World. Haven't ordered it as yet. I've not ordered many of the sort of Outcast and Hanger-on models. Got a couple I'll show you today that I've painted up, because I'm assuming we're going to look at those. Scum of the Hive, always for hire, lots of background, and again, a fantastic thing that Necromunda Book's good at is giving you the background to get you really immersed in your gangs. Here, Outlaws, Outcasts and Outlanders. Distinction between a criminal, an outlaw, an outcast and an outlander can be a murky one, so it seems like we're going to be having three different kind of castes or references towards people. So a criminal, that's fine, take part in any unsanctioned industries of Necromunda, such as the narco lords, overseer the rogue factoria, fine. Outlaw, been sanctioned by the Paladite enforcers, the breaker of the laws of Necromunda. Outcast is someone rejected from Necromunda society, most likely never to be accepted again. Okay, so a criminal might enjoy acceptance of legitimate society, and even an outlaw may find redemption. An outcast is no longer considered to be part of the system. Okay, Outlander is anyone who lives beyond the formal reach of the Imperial House. Many Necromundans are also Underhivers are also considered Outlanders if they live too far from one of the major settlements. Okay, interesting, but Outlanders exist in the deep bad zones out in the Ash Wastes, or far in the Ash Wastes, so very interesting. Three different distinctions there that we're going to see. Makata Rex, so all the Makata guilds we've seen in the previous books, we reference these things. That's very nice artwork. Okay, so with the Outcast gang, this seems to be the kind of uniform, looks like some sort of worker's rig, you know, not quite normal clothing of the Underhive, but it seems like this is what they're going for, the aesthetic, and the armour is very obviously scratch built armour, so a very interesting change of what you might see with your gang. Too weird to live. Some outcasts are outcasts by choice but necessity. So the weird's obviously psychic powers. You are an outcast, and here's another example of an outcast here. Hero Slag Mist. I've recently done a painting guide on the Forge World model for this, so quick look at that. You can have a see. I don't know if you can. Too much detail. Lighting's not set up for showing the models. But if you fancy seeing how I did that, including some real nice water effects. Now he's basically a water vampire, I suppose you'd call it. I found some archaeo tech out in the wastes, put it on, and it turned him into basically a sort of subhuman creature that goes around and drains the water from people. So all that kind of stuff I suppose is very interesting about the outcasts and where we come from. So lots of interesting ones. Here's another. They're obviously trying to reference a lot of things you can buy. So Belladonna, another Forge World model. I do have this, it's not painted. Let's get it at some point. Cal Jericho, one of the very first kind of famous bounty hunter and characters from Necromunda, way back in the 96, 97 version, whichever one it was. So interesting, it looks like we're going to be able to do a gang with Cal Jericho as a leader, or any of these characters as a leader. So straight actually into assembling the Outcast gang. Very interesting. So gang composition, similar, looks exactly the same as making a normal gang. Choose and purchase the fighters, give them weapons and war gear, equip them, give them the equipment, gang roster. So building the gang looks to be exactly the same. Now, very interesting. Ex-Enforcer, that could be a fantastic thing to either convert, or I'm assuming Forge World have done a model for that, or will do a model for that. So equipment sets, Equipment set seems to work the same as other gangs, so you can have multiple equipment sets, but have a different fighter card for various fighters so you can flick between, so that's good. Creating an Underhive leader, elevating an Underhive leader, they all find the same. Death of an Underhive leader, sort of very similar. And here we get into what we can hire. Now this is very interesting. So you do have obviously a lot of options for recruiting that leader. So we're spending 125 credits to recruit your leader, and with a variety of stat levels, which is really interesting. So it says here, there's no single mold from which an outcast leader is cast, each is as individual as the hive cities of Necromunda. So that's something very different. So you'll have to decide what the balance of your gang is going to be. Look here, you can go for a sort of slow movement, you know, 4 inches, but very toughness 4, 3 wounds. So we can go down that line, or we can go down the speed route, so 7 inches, different weapon skills, different ballistic skills. So it's a very interesting way of doing this, where your gang could be incredibly different between outcast gangs. So yeah, I like this. So how group activation works is the same. The skills and affiliations represent the huge variety of potential Underhive outcast leaders. When Underhive outcast gang is created, its leader must choose an affiliation. So it's a glimpse into the origins of the leader, or speak to the contacts they still maintain. That's interesting. So you can choose from clanless, clan house, merchant guilds, criminal organisation, or noble house. Each comes with its own advantages and disadvantages, but determine the equipment the outcast leader and the gang have access to. So that's very, very interesting. So you can have slight links to what's gone on before. So clan house. Many outcast leaders were once members of a clan house, but have since fallen out of favour with their old masters. Being a former member of a clan comes with many benefits. Have a look. Clan house Underhive outcast gang is created. You choose one of the 6 clan houses. Okay, so we've seen all these and all the standard clan houses. Purchase weapons and war gear normally restricted to house lists, including exotic beasts. Very good. Only enter alliances with factions of the clan house. Okay, so we have merchant guild, so it's rare for members of merchant guild to go rogue, but it does happen. When creating a merchant guild under Hive outcast gang, you must choose one of the following guilds to affiliate with: Coin, Iron, Corpse, Water, Promethean, Slave. And obviously in the previous House of books, we've seen the gangs that have got access to Iron Guild, Corpse Guild, Water Guild. Some very nice Water Guild Forge Your models have come out. I'll shot those up on the screen. So you could do that and maybe draw those models into your gang. That could be really exciting. Criminal organisation. Get different traders, narco lords, fallen houses, Psi Syndica, and then noble houses. This would be where I would imagine you would bring in, like we've seen at the front, Lady Credo, those kind of things. You would bring these figures in. That could be very interesting as well. So definite differences in how we're creating these gangs. Wow, this one's going to be a lot of reading, so I'm clearly not going to get through what's going on today, but both Necromunda boasts a variety of unique fighters dedicated to the various factions of Necromunda found in a variety of books. We know that. Some can be adapted into Underhive outcast gangs, allowing the players to create a gang based upon a guild, criminal or noble delegation. If player wishes and the campaign arbitrator agrees, players can use such a delegation as the heart of their Underhive outcast gang as follows. Choose one of the delegations listed below, deduct their costs from your starting stash. Some delegations single models such as fallen nobles should be added. So these are the delegations that we've seen previously in a few of the books. So House Green was in recent Orlock books, Corpse Harvesting Party. So it says there where they are, House of Faith. So it tells you what books you're going to need to reference to buy these and get them. So that's very interesting. So if you were to go for Corpse Harvesting Party from House of Faith book, 550 credits, and you're going to get a leader, a champion, a ganger. Very interesting, and really gives you access to a quick way of using those models. Because again, to use these models in other gangs, actually you've got to get your gang established, you've got to advance through campaigns, you've got to then petition. So there's lots of things you've got to do ordinarily to get these models usable in your gang. So if you wanted to start off with a siphoning delegation, you could do that straight away and use them in the gang. So a brilliant way of, well, 1, workshop selling models, but 2, Ocelot being able to use really nice models straight away in our Necromunda games. It shows you actually the depth of extras they've added in when you look at all these extra things we've got in here, how much they've put in their previous books. Now the water delegation is actually something I've been looking at on the Forge World site since it's come out and umming and ahhing about, but I hadn't kind of pulled the trigger on it, mostly because I couldn't ever see my gangs currently progressing to a point where I'd be able to actually use them. But when we look at this is straight away a great reason to get into this, so watch this space. I very much may be at some point in the future, I've got a lot of projects on at the moment, but maybe getting into this, I can definitely see that happening. So Archetypes, So we're still on the leaders, so a lot of real depth of character you can make in your leaders. Every Underhive Outcast leader has different strengths and weaknesses. Some are brutal overlords who rule through physical strength and crush all in their path. Others are more cunning, manipulating those around them to do their bidding. Others still can call upon the powers of the warp to keep their gang in line. So these archetypes are ways that you can obviously customise your leader to give them different skill sets, and again, really change. So we could have a super quick, agile psyker, for example, or a slow, brutal brawler or gunslinger. Good. So it gives you access to your different skills, gives you different primary, secondary skills. I like that. Really like that. So now we're into the champion stage. So we could have obviously already added a leader from the book, or we could have brought in a delegation that would take up our leader and maybe perhaps a champion. But these are the guys. Now this uniform is incredibly resemblant of the Gene Stealer cult kind of uniform and how the models look, so I'm sure there's going to be lots and lots of swapping in and out of that equipment and doing a Underhive Gene Stealer cult, obviously, which we've seen in some of the earlier books. So how we hire it, group activation is the same. So a lot of the data sheet seems the same, apart from obviously archetype is something you don't have to pick ordinarily, but it gives you there the Outcast champions access to skill sets based upon their archetype. So okay, good. Weapons of war given training posts. A lot of it's fairly similar. We've got the stat line, and it's just really how we add outcasts and champions and into ordinary gangs as well. I do love the artwork. I really like what they're doing with the artwork here. A little bit of what looks like some sort of noble house kind of coat that obviously the Underhive scum here has got, and cut the sleeves off and that kind of thing. So really good way of being able to draw all sorts of different models into Necromunda. If you were to want to go out into 40k and things, there's plenty we could use. So they're calling it a hive scum, so it's a ganger, 30 credits, and actually when we look into the book for what is hive scum, probably the same stat line from memory, so that's very interesting. And these are the ones that are going to advance to being specialists, like the normal Jews and things would in gangs. A fairly broad equipment rig out, armoured undersuits, drop rig, all the usual sort of things we get access to with any ordinary gang. Rattling Sloppers. Now, I've got a project in mind to do with Bigby Crumb, the Rattling Slopper. I've got a few Necromunda projects in mind, so it's nice that we're dropping him in here. Lovely model when we see. So what's interesting now is what they've done with Bigby Crumb is rather than using him as a normal slopper, we now have rules for him. So when Bigby Crumb is hide, he brings along his slop pot. It's its own model. While when he's turned into the slop pot, Bigby may perform the add ingredients action. Stinger Spore Stew. Friends on Fondue. Until the end of this round, friendly fighters within 2 inches of the slot pot gain the nerves of steel and true grit skills. Excellent. Tentacle Surprise. Slot pot counts as a beast layer. Very interesting. So adding some characterful pieces in there like that. Hangers on and brutes. Assuming this is going to be very similar or identical to the previous hanger on and brutes rules, it looks like it's laid out the same. Gives you the rules of, if you've got low reputation, you're not going to have many hangers on. Higher reputation you're going to get quite a few. Underhive Traders. This is a new one. So available to any gang. It's a world built upon commerce from the lowliest clanner to the lords of the spire. Goods are bought, sold or traded constantly. A canny trader can make their fortune if they know where to sell their wares, and the Underhive is often the richest source of customers, whether for cheap ammo, pets or artifacts. Excellent. I love that one. That's great. Crocs, dingoes, or dingoes, Beast Wrangler and Croc Skinner. Awesome. Love that. So Beast Wrangler is a procurer and tamer of exotic beasts. The Beast Wrangler can train a gang's exotic pets while they rest in the gang's hideouts. At the start of each campaign week, add 1 XP to each exotic beast in the gang. So if you're going for Goliaths and you're taking your Sump Crocs and those kind of things, it could be very useful. Or your Escher for all the cats, that kind of thing. So I like this because you have Relic Monger, Beast Wrangler, Gunsmith, and a connected trader. So I like this. Lots of conversion opportunities, opportunity for making terrain, all geared around what these Underhive traders are doing. Now we've seen these before. So Dome Runner we've seen, been knocking around for a while, so should be used to. So we've got Ammo Jacks. Now really interesting we'll be able to do if you were to take, for example, a Gunsmith, an Ammo Jack in your gang. Really evocative piece of terrain you could make and theme your gang down that kind of line. So you've seen these, but very good. Now this is the new slopper. So is it Fatty Bogan's Slopper, Bogan's Fine Meats. This has obviously just been previewed on the community site. Coming up soon as a new slopper, so that's good. So it's just giving you the same rules we've seen before for sloppers, but now obviously they've turned the Rattling Slopper into its character and giving us another model we can use, but obviously plenty of opportunity for converting our own, which is fine. Rogue Docks, must get around to buying this model. I've thought about it quite a lot. It is a lovely model when you see the one on Forge World, and the artwork's fantastic, so it's great. Dr. Arachnos, Rogue Doc. Again, we've seen he's obviously being featured on the front cover, so Rogue Doc there. And he's been given some extra rules on top of a normal Rogue Doc, so medical mechadendrites. Dr. Arachnos' medical mechadendrites allow him to turn any location into impromptu operating theatre during the recovery phase. If Dr. Arachnos is in 3 inches of a seriously injured friendly fighter, instead of making a recovery check for fighter, you can make an intelligence check for Dr. Arachnos. The check is successful, the fighter immediately recovers from their serious injury, just as if they'd rolled a flesh wound on the injury dice. Check is failed, the fighter was out of action instead. That could be fantastic for your high level, powerful gang members in a game. 100 credits, relatively expensive, but as gangs progress, 100 credits actually is probably fairly easily found, so that's a really interesting little rule, and again a lovely model. Ambots, love Ambots, I love my Ambot. Yeah, I'm going to go grab him now. So my Ambot was in my cabinet, so I thought I'd grab him and have a little bit of a show. Again, light's not so great. Now he was being used quite heavily in my gang. I think they're a fantastic little add-on. They are relatively expensive in credits, but it's something very, very different. And particularly when I tied him into my corridor, and really he was found at the bottom of the hive, you know, where they were digging through the scraps and detritus, brought back into action. So when I made him, I cut a few pieces off of the winches and just damaged him and made sure that the paintwork was quite battered and scratched, and you know, it's covered in bullet holes and things. So you can do quite a lot of customization just on an Ambot by itself. So really nice add-on into quite a lot of gangs. Servitor Ogryns. Now, I do have a painted picture of a Servitor Ogryn on the background of my Instagram and things channel, but I do have another one here that I've got to paint up. It's the one and only unpainted model in my cabinet, actually. A few weeks ago I was doing on a bit of a Necromunda trip again, painted a couple of characters up and meant to do him and never got round to it. So it's probably going to go back into the figure case and come out another time. Not really used Ogryns in the gang before, which is why I really haven't rushed to paint them. But again, beautiful models, and actually what would be really interesting when we look at the Ogryn here, when you look at the new Slopper model, this guy could easily actually be converted into an Ogryn Slopper, and there's a hanger on for your gang, and you could do some different conversion works. And now I'm thinking about it, that might have to be done. If you fancy seeing me do that on the channel, drop a comment down below. I think an Ogryn Slopper might be an interesting one to do, because I don't think I've seen it before. Outlander terrain. So terrain is very important, obviously in Necromunda. I think I've mentioned it before when I've done some terrain building and painting videos, that Necromunda is really the kind of the other gang in your game. It takes more of an importance in Necromunda than pretty much any other game system, because, or in game system that Warhammer does, just because it's you've got actions to open doors, you've got firing ports, you've got strongholds, all sorts of things. So it's really good that they've got a section here focusing on the terrain. They're mentioning the new gang stronghold that you can buy. It's interesting. Underhive Market. So this is something that is going to feature clearly, because they've released now a Zone Mortalis market kit, which we'll get to at the end of the video. So Underhive Market is typically made up of a number of market stalls and other small terrain pieces arranged in a 12-inch diameter area. Citadel Underhive Market terrain kit is perfect to represent this kind of terrain. Sales link. The players can also build their own if they wish. So you can market loot. Underhive Market stalls can be looted by enterprising gangers with a bit of time to spare in the midst of a firefight. A market stall counts as a loot casket. So a way of getting lots of credits or interesting things during the course of a battle. So you take the action, and this is a different table instead of the one in the Necromunda rulebook. 4 to 5. It wasn't nailed down. During the visit, the trading post step of the post-battle sequence, the gang gains 1 common item worth 30 credits or less. Very nice. Jackpot. During the visit the trading post step of the post-battle sequence, the gang selects 3 items with rarity rating of 9 or less and randomly choose which one they gain. Very nice. So we like that. If an Underhive Market is controlled by a player, only their opponent can loot it. So clearly going to be some raid missions and things like that. So it's really characterful of adding in different scenarios to it. Weird powers. Obviously seen weird powers before. A couple of previous gangs have been very heavy on weird powers, particularly the Delax have gone for it. So nice that we can drop weird powers in there. I'm not going to talk through everything because I don't want this to be a huge talk through book, but we've gone for obviously all the different disciplines. So Pyromancy discipline, we can stop bleeding to try and heal, you know, wounded allies, that kind of thing. Chronomancy, so all time based. Divination, it's all about seeing the future sight, that kind of thing. Pyromancy, everyone likes a bit of pyromancy, a bit of flame. Very, very obviously common and popular to do very more violent powers, but I have found actually sometimes the more subtle powers can be more fun to use. Technomancy, so you can be a technomancer, like your own pretend little tech priest, could be very interesting. Telekinesis, telepathy, so much difference and real interest in what we can do. There we go, another squat ammo jack. Now this is a different photo model, so I think you can see squats are coming back in a vengeance. You know, I've got my bounty hunter, squat bounty hunter here that I painted when I was doing my review on some brushes. So squats are very much making a comeback in the world of Necromunda, which obviously means it'll inevitably bleed into 40k. It's just an interesting characterful way of adding different pieces in. Now we have quite a substantial section on running the campaign. So we're up to the campaign point already, and we've still got a lot of this book to go through. So it says here, the arbitrator. Outlander campaign requires one of the players to take on the role of an arbitrator. It's the arbitrator's job to keep track of victories, offer guidance for the players, and control random events or elements. Now, that doesn't mean the arbitrator can't play. We've run campaigns quite frequently where the arbitrator will play. So just needs to be someone that really kind of keeps a list of all these things and what's going on. Central to the Outlander campaign is the building of settlements, which is what we want, you know, opportunity to make terrain, to build an hive market, whatever it is you get, and how you pick your settlements. Set up the campaign, this looks to be the same sequence of events that we would do for any other campaign. We've seen this and how you establish it, starting your settlements, and it looks like there will be, I assume, some different settlement locations and starts. So there is, yes. So, you know, when we 5 different kind of outland locations, players can construct their settlement in, each with its benefits and drawbacks. So Factorum Runoff, Boneyard, Ghost Town, the Depths, Edge of the Hive. So some different ways of settling. Many of the sites that settlements are built in border or are in the bad zones, described in Necromunda the Book of Peril. If the arbitrator wishes, many of the rules from that supplement may be used in the Outlander campaign. So some good links there between the books. We like that. Arbitrator doesn't have to map out exactly where the settlements lie in relation to one another. They might wish to, which is very useful when you are playing that game. And then we have what looks to be a very well set out campaign system, and this is the beauty, I suppose, of these expansion books. So a lot of people have talked about, why do we want an expansion book? We've got all the gangs, and there's a little part of me that thinks the same, you know, what's the problem? But if you're playing a lot of Necromunda over an extended period of time, it is very nice to have access to different campaigns, different maps, different missions, and it really does add a level of interest to the game. So with maximum characteristics, lasting injuries, this is the same as in other books. I'm sure there's going to be some differences in there when we look and real dig into the minutiae of it, but it's coming across as very, very similar. How you succumb to injuries, how you get captured, fleeing the battlefield. So we have pre-battle sequence in an Outlander campaign. Several steps take place before a battle as listed below. Make a challenge, buy advancements, recruit hired guns, scenario, set the battlefield, choose crew. So fairly standard gang tactics, and then we deploy and we play. So scenario. So determine scenario, play with a greater number of structures, choose which scenario to play. So, okay, let's see what the structures thing are. Play the gunk tank if you're in development phase, or the settlement raid if you're in expansion phase. So, interesting there, mining expedition, market mayhem, big score, stealth attack. So really drawing you into obviously the campaigns and the battle sequences that are in here. And here we can see the artwork here. This is obviously based on one of the scenery sets you can get, so pulling in scenery kits and giving you the opportunity to make a little piece here. And all of these post-battle sequences seem fairly similar. Selling to the guilders, you can do a medical escort, so if you've got a dock you can do an extra, that kind of thing. Seek illegal equipment, we like this. How you win the game, settlements and structures. So at start the Outlander campaigns, the gangs have set out into the bad zones in the hive looking to make their mark. We've said that before. All gangs start with 2 structures for their settlement, an isotopic fuel rod and a water still. Interesting. going back to original Necromunda, isotopic fuel rods were what, if you bought them in the trading post, that's what enabled you to turn a piece of wasteland into a settlement. So that's good. So you start with those structures. All structures have 3 components. Gives you the benefits, build cost and requirement. Tells you the cost to build the structure and materials, what must be paid for the structure to be added. Oh, very, very interesting. Okay, and that's how obviously build. Isotopic fuel rod, 10 units of power, 15 sustenance. So there's clearly some additional pieces we've really got to dig our heads into to play that. I won't again find out what all this is, but it's just adding a level of complexity and difference into this book that we haven't seen before. Scenarios. This is the piece I suppose that everyone gets interested in, because with Necromunda you don't have to do a campaign. You can just pick a scenario, play that scenario and just have a bit of fun with it. Nothing wrong with that at all to do, but the beauty is obviously doing the expanded campaign and really watch your gang develop through the weeks and months. So settlement raid, lovely artwork. Again, they are doing a really good job of making this artwork look subtly different from the other books, where adding in, you know, mohawks that we've seen in other gangs, similar equipment, but definitely a different aesthetic, which is really nice. Market Mayhem, what's this? Gunsmith and Bullet Peddler, really pulling you into wanting to do a battle around the market. So because this is the, I suppose, the feature release of this book, the Untitled Market, so a bit more of a look. So one gang is the attacker and one is the defender. We've seen this. We've seen the rating part. Place fighters within 12 inches of the centre of the battlefield. Okay, so how do we set this up? What do we do? Oh, neither side is packing heavy weaponry for the fight. The attacker has snuck into their rival's market, interesting, with only what they can hide on their person, while the defender doesn't want to shoot up their own settlement, obviously. So while fighting in the market or shooting into the market, the following restrictions apply to both gangs. Heavy weapons and ranged weapons with a strength greater than 5 can't be used. Weapons with the blast or template traits can't be used. Rapid fire trait can be used, but only if they're fired on single shot. Fighters may not make the coup de grace action. Or that's very interesting. So you're having a scrap in a local trading post. Great little scenario. Look forward to trying that one. Stealth attack scenario. Walk softly and carry a primed frag grenade. Excellent, we like that. Again, nice scenario option. Gunk tank. Now, I'm drawn to this scenario list purely because it feels like there's going to be an interesting conversion piece to be able to do. So, central to the fight is the gunk tank, with both sides trying to siphon off as much precious gunk as they can while stopping their opponent from doing the same. Awesome. A fighter in base contact with the gunk tank can make this siphon action. If successful, place a gunk token on the fighter card next to the model to show they're in possession of a precious gunk. Can only carry 1 gunk token at a time to take an action, they drop the gunk token, etc. Carrying gunk is not without its dangers. A fighter carrying a gunk token is more flammable, and if hit by a weapon with a blaze trait is automatically set on fire. Excellent. Purpose of gunk is to escape with it. Any fighter carrying a gunk token may be removed from the battlefield by moving to base contact with any battlefield edge. I love this idea of this. Brilliant way of doing a conversion. Look at the artwork there, very nice, glowy gunk coming across. I suppose in a way you could even do this if you were doing a water guild. I'm thinking about a water guild now. You could even do this as a water tank. The excuse for them being flammable wouldn't really be there, I suppose, but you know, water is precious in Necromunda. We could do the same if you're doing a water themed gang. So it's not telling us what. There's a scenario, battlefield, Necromunda book place with a gunk tank, just place a gunk tank in the centre of the battlefield. Very interesting. Mining expedition, obviously we're drifting out into the Badlands. And again, another feature of a Forge World model, the Yar Umbra. So, interesting. Big score. They're dropping a lot of scenarios in here. Very good. I like the idea of that. Again, really going to be interesting to sort of dig through and explore what this is about. And here we're at the end of the book with the pictures and some models. Cal Jericho, always loved the story and thing behind Cal Jericho and Scabs. So, interesting to pick this one up. And again, separate rules from another book. Belladonna we've seen. I've just shown you my Bounty Hunter. Yar Umbra, it's really good. The Scum models. Now I didn't pick up the actual models. Now the reason being is normally if I do an unboxing and talk through an Necromunda book particularly, I'll then instantly build the gang and show you that after we've talked through the book. Now I haven't done that this time because I didn't want to just build the gang like I normally would, because I don't know what I want to equip them or the rules that I knew would be in there. So I really want to have a think about what I'm going to do with my Outcast gang. And I'm doing some of the projects like I said before, so I'm sure at some point I will pick these models up because they are lovely, but at the moment I haven't. Really want to sort of explore. Slave Ogrim we've seen. Bertram Arturos, so digging in a lot of the Forge World models. And here we're up to the tactic scenarios. There's a lot to read and understand through this book. So gang tactics cards, it's probably a good time to actually flick through gang tactics cards now. These things for some reason have become incredibly sought after, and I do get why, because they are advantageous to have during the game because you're not having to flick in and out of a book. So I do understand why people want them. I'll grab the clippers to open this very gently. I do understand why people want them. It makes the game easier. I don't understand why Games Workshop make them so limited. It does seem to be you buy a pack of gang tactics cards and they're then triple the price later on because they sell out. But all these are, the actual cards, is just tactics that are listed in this book, but in an easier to use format that you can select or shuffle through. You do get some, oh, they're actually completely plain. On all the gang cards we've had before, you actually have the gang alliance kind of watermarked on the card. These are completely plain, so I suppose very useful for if you want to add on to other gangs or using the Outlaws. I suppose it reflects the fact that we don't know who these are allied to, so that's fine. So look at that. So we have temporary alliance, and that reflects to the D66 roll of the 11 to 12 there. So all the tactics that are in the book here are reflected on the gang tactics cards, so you don't need these cards. They are just a little bit nicer to have at the side of the board, and there's less kind of bookkeeping as you're going through. So if we just have a random flick through, for example, hard rounds, play this gang tactic at the start of any round before players roll for priority. For the duration of both this round and the next, both players must roll 2d6 when making a bottle test rather than the usual d6. Oof, okay, that could be quite nasty. Undercover Agent, play this gang tactic when activating a friendly fighter. The fighter can choose to replace their characteristics profile with that of any friendly fighter that is currently on the battlefield. At the end of their activation, this fighter goes out of action. Very interesting one-shotter. So, nice to have the cards. Really like the artwork on the box of the cards. Not necessary if you haven't picked them up, but something I tend to get at this stage, even though I've not bought the models yet. I know at some point I will do, and it is nice to have a collection of all the cards as they come out. Symptomatic of the kind of fear of missing out part, I suppose, because I'm not going to use these for months and months and months probably, but I've got them. So there we go. You could make your own. You could just write this onto a piece of paper. You could, you know, laminate something if you didn't want to buy the cards or you weren't lucky enough to get them. And here's the rest. So Lady Credo, we've seen her before from Forge World. Beautiful model, and a really interesting part about the noble lords that fall down into the Underhive. Trading post. This looks sort of similar. Some items cheapen the gang equipment list, we know that. And when we go to the post-gang sequence, you roll, you add on your gang's reputation, and you get offered a variety of common or rare or whatever weaponry. So that's exciting. And obviously, as you've seen, we could do some market raiding. So special weapons, grav guns, all the full weapons lists. Now, if we were to dig in, I'm sure there's some that have been added in and some that have been taken out from other books. I'm sure it's not a full list of every weapon we've ever had in all the games. I don't think the chaosy stuff's in here. I'm not going to say that as a quote because I don't know. But it looks like a fairly big list of equipment, picking in some things that obviously the house gangs have access to, and some that the Underhive scum's probably separate to them. So, full weapon list. There's the man himself, Cal Jericho. Nice piece of artwork. Looks a bit sticky there. Armour, you've seen this already, so all this is not new. So carapace armour, flak, how this all works has been the same. So the fact you can get this equipment, even if you're an outcast, obviously is a reflection of the Underhive markets and the fact that, you know, money is king in Necromunda, I guess. Personal equipment sheets are all the same, so we've got access to all of that. Opulent jewellery, servo skulls. Ah, here we go. So he's the other one that we saw the picture of before about the fallen enforcer, Ashwood Stranger Outcasts leader. Excellent. Okay. Quick draw. It's very hard to get the drop on Ashwood. If Ashwood is targeted by a shooting attack while he has a ready marker, he can make an immediate range attack against the attacking enemy fighter. Very good. Doesn't move his ready marker. So it's here, there are some who reckon Ashwood to have once been an enforcer himself. And certainly the custom equaliser stub pistol he carries is surprisingly similar to Palanite manufacture. So Going to be very interesting to do a gang based on Enforce, you know, a gang of people wearing bits of Enforcer armour. There's so much customisation in this book. I think it's going to be great for people that like converting, modelling and doing something different. And it takes you all the weapon rules and another very nice Hive Scum picture at the end. And that's the book complete. So my general thoughts, I suppose, on that, it's going to require a lot of reading. It feels like this book is going to be a converter's paradise. You're going to have a lot of thought into how you want to build, construct your gang. But once you've done that, you're going to have a completely unique gang that no one else has got. And really a great opportunity to drag in some of the Forge-World models you've maybe not had a chance to use, but you've been lusting after. I think I'm going to go for the Water Guild models. They're really, really tempting, and I've got some ideas about some scenery I could use. You know, the gunk tank piece there, do it instead. Well, I'm going to build a water tank, why not? This is a book really of inspiration for me. Definitely want to dig through more, get a bit more in depth, because there's new things in there about structures and stuff like that that I've not really focused on previously, and doing scenery that matches scenarios. So lots of inspiration, great little book. Let's now take a look at the Underhive market. So a quick unboxing on this. Now, as I said before, ordinarily when I'm doing an unboxing, I will build the scenery, all the gang figures that come with it. Now, I didn't buy the gang figures, we've said that already. I didn't buy the gang figures because I normally would just build them to exactly as they're supposed to be, and I know if I'm going to expand the gang, it's going to end up more than the 5 or 10 figures that you get. So I didn't buy the gang because I knew there'd be lots of customization, and I thought if I get it, I'm just going to be too tempted to build them just so I could show them at the end of the video. So I've not done that. I did, however, buy the market because I've got no idea of the scale and scope of these, and I've got some ideas of some scenery I want to do for my game in the future. So I thought I'll buy the market, have a look at it. I'm not going to build it, so you're not going to see this built at the end of this video, unfortunately, because that's normally something I would do, but I'm not doing this time because I want to see what the pieces do so that I can make a real solid decision on how I'm going to use these in the future. So if you like seeing my scenery builds, I'll link a few down below for previous scenery builds and things that I've done, so you can take a look at that and that'll inspire you to, you know, watch further videos. So we get 2 identical sprues, so I'll put one to one side. And let's just start an examination of this sprue. We have the Necromunda kind of symbol, obviously some sort of road marking or map or religious icon. We've got the famed Mung Vase. So in the original Necromunda, it was great when your gang got offered a Mung Vase because you could either lose loads of cash or gain loads of cash. We have very elaborate rifles. We've got coin stashes, equipment chests, very nice with some nice symbology on there, so we like that. And then the rest of these, I'm assuming we can build these in a number of different fashions. Let's see how easy the instructions are to follow. So, so lots of options of we can build these. So we can build it as a sort of single framework, a double framework. You can just use it as a stall divider. I need to check the heights, and this is why I've bought this. So I'm kind of thinking we could do, I've never done the Munitorum armoured containers, kind of turn it into a market stall thing, which has been a popular thing for a few years now. So in my head, I want to turn some of the armoured containers, maybe use some of these screens and things that are on here to draw some of that in. We seem to have what looks like sort of energy creators, all the different frameworks for holding up the tarpaulins, some mesh racks for obviously mounting weaponry or ammunition and things on. So a very nice little set. 2 sprues of it. For me, I'm not going to build it straight away. As I said before, this is going to be how I'm going to build this into other terrain pieces at some point. I really want to take a holistic look at my Necromunda terrain, and I want to start doing a different project. I've done my Zone Mortalis board. You've seen that on the channel. It's done quite well, got a lot of views actually. Real pleased with that video and the scenery itself. It's lovely to play on. I'm now wanting to do a totally different Necromunda board, and this is going to take probably a part of that as we go. So if you like what I do with these scenery things, you know, keep an eye on the channel. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you like what I do, check me out on Instagram and Facebook, Adam's Hobby Stuff, and subscribe, like, comment, all that YouTube jazz, and hopefully I will see you on here again soon. Thanks.